I stared at my reflection in the mirror, smoothing down the silk dress that Franklin had chosen for my 40th birthday celebration. $3,000 worth of fabric, and all I felt was suffocated. My name is Reese, and tonight was supposed to be my milestone celebration. Instead, it would become the night that changed everything. Mom, you look amazing. Skylar appeared behind me, her eyes bright with excitement. At 18, she was everything I hoped she'd become. Strong, independent, nothing like the shell of a woman I pretended to be. Thank you, sweetheart. I turned to hug her, breathing in her familiar strawberry shampoo. Is your father ready? Directing the catering staff like a military operation. She rolled her eyes. He's already complained about the champagne temperature twice. I forced a smile, remembering how Franklin had dismissed my suggestion to hire my friend's catering company. Of course he has. The grand ballroom of the country club slowly filled with guests, Franklin's business associates, their wives, and a carefully curated selection of our friends. Adeline, my best friend and only confidant, caught my eye from across the room and raised her champagne glass with a knowing look. Darling! Franklin's booming voice carried across the room as he approached, his hand possessively settling on my lower back. Senator Morrison was just asking about our recent trip to the Maldives. The resort was lovely, I replied automatically, the practiced smile never leaving my face. Reese barely left the spa, Franklin laughed, addressing the senator. Though with what these treatments cost, she better have come back looking 10 years younger. The senator's wife tittered politely, while I felt Skylar stiffen beside me. My daughter had become increasingly aware of her father's subtle digs over the past year. Dad, she started, but I squeezed her hand, silently asking her to let it go. The evening progressed like a well-orchestrated symphony of fake laughs and strategic networking. Franklin worked the room like the master manipulator he was, while I played my part as the devoted wife. Only Adeline knew the truth, knew about the empire I'd built right under his nose. Time for speeches! Franklin clinked his glass, commanding attention. My stomach clenched. Today, we celebrate my beautiful wife's 40th birthday. The crowd gathered closer, and I spotted Nora, my 14-year-old, slipping in beside her sister. Their presence anchored me. When I met Reese, she was a small-town girl with big dreams. Franklin's voice carried that patronizing tone I'd grown to hate. Look at her now, living those dreams through our success. Everything she has, this dress, our home, our children's education, it's all because she was smart enough to say yes when I proposed. Nervous laughter rippled through the crowd. I felt Adeline's gaze burning into me, silently urging me to maintain composure. My wife might not understand the intricacies of business, Franklin continued, his smile sharp as a knife, but she's mastered the art of spending my money, and really, isn't that what matters? More laughter, more uncomfortable this time. I saw Skylar's hands ball into fists, saw Nora's confused expression. To Reese, he raised his glass, the perfect trophy wife. Happy birthday, darling. Try not to max out the credit cards this year. The room erupted in polite applause, but I heard the whispers, saw the pitying glances. Skylar stormed out, Nora trailing behind her. Adeline moved toward me, but I shook my head slightly. Not yet. Franklin pulled me close, his lips brushing my ear. Smile, darling. You're embarrassing me. I did smile, but not for the reasons he thought. In that moment, as he publicly humiliated me on my birthday, I made my decision. The careful plans I'd been making, the empire I'd built in secret, it was time. Thank you, everyone, I spoke up, my voice steady. And thank you, Franklin, for reminding me exactly who you think I am. He frowned slightly, but I kept my smile in place, raising my own glass. To the next chapter, I said, looking directly into his eyes. He had no idea what was coming. Later that night, as I stood on our bedroom balcony, I pulled out my phone and dialed Lucian's number. It's time, I said when he answered. Start the proceedings. Are you sure? My mentor asked, though we both knew the answer. He made a joke about me maxing out his credit cards, I replied, watching the city lights below. Little does he know, I could buy and sell him 3 times over. As I ended the call, I heard Franklin approaching. I slipped the phone away and prepared to play my part one last time. Tomorrow, everything would change. Tomorrow, Franklin would learn exactly what his trophy wife was capable of. 5 years earlier, I sat in a sleek downtown coffee shop, my hands trembling as I held the bank statement. Franklin had forgotten to mention the second mortgage he'd taken out on our house, money he'd lost in what he called a sure thing investment. Mrs. Watson? A distinguished older man approached my table. I'm Lucian. Thank you for meeting me. I quickly wiped away my tears, embarrassed to be caught crying in public. Please, call me Reese. He sat down, his kind eyes taking in my distress. Adeline told me about your situation. She mentioned you have quite the eye for real estate investments. I straightened up, remembering the small victories I'd achieved by secretly flipping houses using my personal savings. It's just a hobby. A hobby that's turned $50,000 into $500,000 in 2 years? He raised an eyebrow. That's not a hobby, Reese. That's talent. My husband doesn't know, I admitted. He thinks I'm just helping friends stage their homes for sales. Lucian leaned forward. What if I told you I could help you turn that talent into something bigger? Something that could secure your children's future? That meeting changed everything. Within months, Lucian had helped me establish a legitimate business structure, using my maiden name to keep it separate from Franklin's radar. We started small, but my instincts were good. Each property I identified turned a profit. Mom? Skylar's voice pulled me back to the present. She stood in my home office doorway, 14 at the time. Dad's yelling about dinner being late again. I closed my laptop quickly, hiding the property portfolios I'd been reviewing. I'll be right there, sweetheart. Why do you let him talk to you like that? She asked, her young face troubled. I crossed the room and hugged her. Sometimes playing the long game is smarter than winning a single battle. That night, after another of Franklin's tirades about my useless hobbies, I met Adeline at our favorite wine bar. You should have seen the latest acquisition, I told her, pulling out my phone to show her pictures. The location is perfect for a boutique hotel. How much? $12 million. I sipped my wine. The renovation budget is set at 8. Adeline whistled low. And Franklin still has no idea? He thinks I'm at book club right now. I laughed. Yesterday, he lectured me about spending too much on groceries. When are you going to tell him? I thought about Skylar and Nora, about college funds and security. When the time is right, when he can't touch any of it. The next few years passed in a careful dance of deception. While Franklin saw a docile wife who managed his social calendar and attended charity luncheons, I was building an empire. Every dismissive comment, every condescending pat on the head fueled my determination. The Singapore deal is closing next week, Lucian informed me during one of our regular meetings. You're about to become a very wealthy woman, Reese. I thought about the irony, how Franklin's emotional abuse had driven me to create something he couldn't even imagine. The girls' trust funds? Already set up and ironclad. Harvard, Yale, whatever they choose, it's covered. Tears pricked my eyes. Thank you, Lucian, for everything. He shook his head. Don't thank me. You did this. I just showed you the door. Later that evening, I watched my daughters doing homework at the kitchen table. Skylar, now nearly ready for college, helped Nora with her math. The weight of my secret felt heavier than ever. Girls, I said softly, what would you think about taking a trip this summer? Just the 3 of us? Dad would never allow it, Nora replied without looking up. Things might be changing soon, I said carefully. Skylar's head snapped up, her eyes searching mine. Sometimes I wondered if she suspected something. She'd caught me in my office late at night too many times, seen too many hushed phone calls. What kind of changes? She asked. I touched the folder hidden in my desk drawer upstairs. Divorce papers, prepared months ago, waiting for the right moment. Good ones, I hope. The doorbell rang and Franklin's voice boomed through the house. Reese, where's my dinner? I squeezed both girls' shoulders as I passed. Soon, I whispered, more to myself than them. Very soon. Walking toward my husband's demands, I felt the strength of everything I'd built. Each step took me closer to the moment when Franklin would realize that his trophy wife had outplayed him at his own game. And when that day came, I would make sure our daughters understood that no one, not even their father, had the right to make them feel small. The board is ready to sign, Lucian announced, spreading documents across the conference room table. 20 hotels across 3 continents, all under your brand. I ran my fingers over the glossy brochures showcasing my boutique hotel chain. Each property told a story. The abandoned warehouse in Brooklyn we'd transformed into an industrial chic destination. The crumbling villa in Tuscany, now restored to its former glory. Have you decided how you'll tell Franklin? Lucian asked. Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. Franklin's name flashed on the screen. Where are you? He demanded. The Hendersons are coming for dinner, and I need you to pick up wine. I'm at my book club meeting, I replied smoothly. I'll stop at the wine store on my way home. Make sure it's the Bordeaux Robert likes, and wear that blue dress I bought you. Of course, dear. I ended the call, my hand shaking slightly. Lucian raised an eyebrow. The same Robert Henderson who tried to outbid us on the Singapore property? The very same, I smiled. He has no idea he lost to his friend's trophy wife. Back at home, I played my part perfectly. Franklin held court at the dinner table, regaling our guests with stories of his business prowess, while I refilled wine glasses and nodded at appropriate intervals. Real estate's where the real money is, Robert declared. Shame about that Singapore deal falling through. Franklin's face darkened. Some mystery buyer swooped in, probably one of those foreign investors. I caught Adeline's eye across the table. I'd invited her to witness this moment. She bit back a smile. Such a shame, I murmured, serving dessert. More wine, Robert? Later that night, after the guests had left, I slipped into my office and dialed Adeline. Did you see Franklin's face when they discussed Singapore? She laughed. I thought I was going to burst. Just wait until he finds out who really owns it. I logged into my secure email, checking the latest reports. The renovation plans were approved today. When are you going to tell him, Reese? Really? I thought about the birthday party he was planning for me. Soon. Very soon. The next morning, I met with my legal team downtown, using the excuse of a spa day. My lawyer, Sarah, reviewed the final documentation. Everything's in order, she confirmed. Your assets are completely separate from Franklin's. The trusts for your daughters are ironclad. And the timing? We can file the divorce papers whenever you're ready. Given your husband's temperament, we've prepared for every contingency. I thought about Franklin's reaction when he discovered that while he was belittling me at dinner parties, I'd built a hospitality empire worth hundreds of millions. The thought both terrified and thrilled me. Walking through my latest hotel acquisition during a hard hat tour that afternoon, I felt a surge of pride. The construction foreman, Mike, showed me the progress. The rooftop restaurant will be ready for inspection next week, he reported. You've got a good eye, Mrs. Sorry, Reese. This place is going to be spectacular. My phone buzzed, a text from Skylar. Dad's in a mood. Says you're not answering his calls. I checked my phone to find 5 missed calls from Franklin. Quickly, I typed, stuck in traffic. Tell him I'll pick up his dry cleaning on the way home. You don't have to keep playing this role, Adeline said when I met her for coffee afterward. You're not that scared woman anymore. Just a little longer, I promised. Everything needs to be perfect. That evening, I prepared Franklin's favorite dinner as a peace offering for my afternoon absence. He barely looked up from his phone as he ate. The country club called about your birthday party next month, he said between bites. I've invited all the right people. Try to look appropriately grateful. Of course, I cleared his plate. Will Robert be there? Naturally, and try to wear something appropriate. You're turning 40, not 20. I thought about the documents sitting in my safe, about the empire I'd built while he underestimated me, about the look that would cross his face when he realized just how badly he'd misjudged his trophy wife. I'll wear whatever you think is best, dear, I said sweetly. Later, as Franklin slept, I stood in my office reviewing the final plans for the Singapore hotel. My phone lit up with a text from Lucian. Board meeting tomorrow, last chance to back out. I thought about my daughters, about the example I wanted to set for them, about every dismissive comment and controlling gesture Franklin had used to diminish me over the years. I'm all in, I texted back. Time to show my husband exactly what his trophy wife can do. The morning after my birthday humiliation, I sat at our kitchen island, calmly sipping coffee while Franklin rushed around preparing for work. His speech from the night before still echoed in my ears, but instead of pain, I felt a strange sense of peace. "Have you seen my blue tie?" Franklin barked, storming into the kitchen. "The one I wear for board meetings?" "Check the dry cleaning in your closet," I replied. "I picked it up yesterday along with your suits." He grunted, not bothering to say thank you. As he rummaged upstairs, Skylar appeared, still in her pajamas, her eyes red from crying. "I hate him," she whispered, sliding onto the stool next to me. "How could he embarrass you like that in front of everyone?" I squeezed her hand. "Sometimes people show us exactly who they are. We just have to pay attention." "What does that mean?" Before I could answer, Franklin reappeared, straightening his tie. "I have dinner with Robert tonight, don't wait up." "Actually," I said, keeping my voice level, "we need to have a family meeting this evening." He barely glanced at me. "Reschedule it. This dinner's important." "More important than your family?" Franklin froze, turning slowly to face me. Skylar tensed beside me. "Excuse me?" "You heard me." I met his gaze steadily. "We're having a family meeting tonight. All of us." He strode toward me, leaning across the island. "I don't know what's gotten into you since last night, but this attitude needs to stop. Remember your place, Reese." "Oh, I know my place," I smiled. "Better than you think." His face reddened. "I have built everything we have. Everything. Don't you dare." "Dad!" Nora's voice cut through his tirade. She stood in the doorway, school bag in hand, eyes wide. Franklin straightened, adjusting his tie. "We'll discuss this later." After he left, Nora approached cautiously. "Mom, are you okay?" "Better than okay," I assured her, pulling out my phone to text Adeline. "It's happening tonight." Her response was immediate. "Finally. Need backup?" "Just be ready," I typed back. Throughout the day, I methodically put my plans in motion. A call to Lucian confirmed all paperwork was in order. Sarah, my lawyer, had a courier deliver the final documents to my private post office box. At 3 o'clock, my phone buzzed with a text from Franklin. "Canceled dinner with Robert, this better be important." I smiled, remembering Robert's face at my birthday party as he'd laughed at Franklin's jokes at my expense. "Good. 7 p.m., don't be late." "Are you going to tell us what's going on?" Skylar asked when she got home from school. "Dad's been texting me all day, trying to get information." "Tonight?" I promised. "Everything changes tonight." At 6:30, I changed into a crisp white suit. Not one Franklin had bought me, but one I'd chosen myself. I pulled out the USB drive containing proof of my business empire and placed it beside my laptop on the dining room table. "Mom?" Nora poked her head in. "Dad just pulled up, he looks mad." "Good." I straightened my shoulders. "Get your sister and meet us in the dining room." Franklin burst through the door moments later, his face stormy. "This better be worth canceling my dinner, Reese." "Oh, it will be." I gestured to the dining room. "Shall we?" The girls were already seated when we entered. Franklin took his usual place at the head of the table, but I remained standing. "What's this about?" he demanded. "Last night," I began, "you made some interesting comments about my spending habits and my role in this family. If this is about the party, it's about everything." I opened my laptop. "About how you see me, how you treat me, and what you think you know about me." "Mom?" Skylar's voice wavered. "For years," I continued, "you've controlled everything, the money, the decisions, our lives. You've made me feel small, made our daughters watch as you belittled their mother." Franklin's face darkened. "I have given you everything." "No," I cut him off, turning my laptop screen toward him. "I've given myself everything. While you were busy playing big shot, I was building this." The screen showed the homepage of my hotel chain, my name prominently displayed as founder and CEO. Franklin's face went from red to white as he scrolled through the pages. "This is some kind of joke," he whispered. "The Singapore deal you lost?" I smiled. "That was me. The boutique hotels across Europe? Also me. That dinner you canceled with Robert tonight? He was meeting with my board of directors to discuss a partnership." The girls gasped. Franklin's hands began to shake. "You're lying," he sputtered. "This isn't possible." I pulled out the folder Sarah had prepared. "Oh, but it is, and we're just getting started." Franklin stared at the documents spread across the dining room table, his hands trembling as he flipped through pages of financial statements and property deeds. 200 million? His voice cracked. This is impossible. That's just the European properties, I said calmly. Would you like to see the Asia-Pacific portfolio? Skylar leaned forward, her eyes wide. Mom, is this real? You own all these hotels? Every single one. I pulled up more images on my laptop. That resort in Bali you loved last summer, that's one of mine. But you said Dad owned it, Nora stammered. Your father's never even been to Bali. I smiled. He was too busy with his important business meetings to join us, remember? Franklin slammed his fist on the table, making everyone jump. How dare you go behind my back, using my connections, Your connections? I laughed. Franklin, I haven't used your name or connections for anything. In fact, you'll notice all of this is under my maiden name. This is why you've been disappearing to book club meetings? Skylar's face lit up with understanding. All those times Dad yelled at you for being late. I was building something of my own. I turned to my daughters. I wanted to show you that no one has the right to make you feel small, not even your father. Franklin stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. This ends now. I'll call my lawyers. Already taken care of, I interrupted, sliding another document toward him. Everything is legally separate from our marital assets, and there's more. I pulled out 2 more folders, placing them in front of Skylar and Nora. What's this? Nora asked, opening hers. Your future, I replied. Trust funds, fully funded for college and beyond. Your father can't touch them. Franklin's face turned an alarming shade of purple. You had no right. I had every right, my voice rose for the first time. While you were busy undermining me, belittling me, making jokes about my shopping habits, I was securing our daughters' futures. Dad? Skylar's voice trembled. Did you know about any of this? He collapsed back into his chair, deflated. Your mother has clearly lost her mind. This is reality, I finished for him, and it's time for changes. My phone buzzed, a text from Adeline. Robert just called. He knows everything. Says Franklin better watch out at the next country club meeting. I smiled, turning back to Franklin. Oh, and you might want to cancel your golf game this weekend. Robert's not too happy about losing the Singapore deal to your wife. You've ruined everything, Franklin whispered. No, Skylar stood up, her voice strong. You ruined everything. With every nasty comment, every time you made Mom feel worthless. She just proved she never was. Nora reached for my hand under the table, squeezing it tight. There's one more thing, I said, pulling out the final document. Divorce papers. I think it's time, don't you? Franklin's laugh was hollow. You really think you can survive without me? Mom doesn't need you, Nora spoke up, surprising everyone. She never did. I'll fight this, Franklin threatened, standing again. I'll tell everyone how you deceived me. Go ahead, I challenged. Tell everyone how your trophy wife outmaneuvered you. How the woman you publicly humiliated at her birthday party is actually more successful than you'll ever be. I'm sure that will go over well at the country club. He stormed out of the dining room, and seconds later, we heard the front door slam. Is he coming back? Nora asked quietly. Probably, I sighed, but things will be different now. Skylar launched herself into my arms, nearly knocking me over. I can't believe you did all this. You're like a secret boss lady. I laughed, pulling Nora into the hug too. Not so secret anymore. My phone buzzed again. Lucian this time. Board wants to issue a press release about the new CEO, ready to go public. Mom? Skylar pulled back, wiping tears from her eyes. What happens now? I looked at my daughters, feeling lighter than I had in years. Now we start living life on our own terms. No more hiding, no more pretending to be less than we are. Can we order pizza? Nora asked. Dad always said it was too unhealthy. Pizza sounds perfect. I pulled out my phone to text Lucian back. Release it. Time to show the world what a trophy wife can do. As we sat eating pizza later, looking through photos of my hotels and planning future visits, I realized that revenge wasn't just about hurting Franklin. It was about reclaiming our power, our voices, our future. And watching my daughter's eyes shine with newfound respect and admiration, I knew every secret, every careful plan had been worth it. The morning after our confrontation, I woke to find Franklin's side of the bed untouched. My phone was flooded with notifications. The press release had done its job. "Mom!" Skylar burst into my room, waving her phone. "You're trending on Twitter. The story about the secret hotel empire is everywhere." Before I could respond, my phone rang. "Lucian." "Turn on the business news," he said without preamble. "They're running the story." I flicked on the TV just in time to see my professional headshot appear on screen. The anchor's voice filled the room. In a surprising development, the mysterious buyer behind the recent string of luxury hotel acquisitions has been revealed as Reese Mitchell, who has quietly built a hospitality empire worth over $500 million. "Holy shit," Skylar whispered. My phone buzzed again. "Adeline." "Robert just resigned from Franklin's board. Says he wants to work with you instead." "Mom?" Nora appeared in the doorway, looking worried. "Dad's downstairs. He looks scary." I straightened my shoulders. "Girls, go to your rooms. Call Adeline if you need anything." Franklin stood in the kitchen, surrounded by newspapers. His normally immaculate appearance was disheveled, his eyes wild. "Having fun destroying my life," he snarled. "I didn't destroy anything, Franklin. I built something." "My board members are jumping ship. The country club is buzzing. Do you have any idea what you've done?" "Exactly what you taught me," I replied calmly. "Isn't this what you always preached? Seizing opportunities, building empires?" He slammed the newspapers down. "Not like this. Not by humiliating me. Like you humiliated me at my birthday party?" I stepped closer. "Or all those dinner parties, or every day for the past 20 years. I gave you everything." "No," I corrected him. "You gave me nothing but contempt. So I gave myself everything." My phone rang again, an international number. Franklin watched as I answered. "Mrs. Mitchell, this is Marcus from the Dubai Investment Group. We'd love to discuss potential partnerships in the Middle East." I smiled at Franklin as I replied, "I'd be delighted. Shall we say next week in Dubai?" After ending the call, I turned back to my husband. "That's what actual business calls sound like, by the way. Not just golf games and cigars." "You've turned our daughters against me," he accused. "No, you did that all by yourself." I poured myself coffee, deliberately using his favorite mug. "Every time you belittled me in front of them, every time you showed them that it was okay for a man to treat his wife like property. I want you out of this house." I laughed. "Check the deed, Franklin. I bought it last year when you were too busy with your mistress to notice the paperwork." His face went pale. "What?" "Oh yes, I know about Amanda. Just like I know about the money you lost in that failed tech startup. The difference is, I was smart enough to build something real while you were playing big shot." The doorbell rang. Through the window, I saw Robert standing on our porch. "That'll be your former board member," I said. "We have a meeting about the Singapore property. Feel free to stay and watch how actual business is conducted." Franklin grabbed his keys. "This isn't over." "Actually, it is." I held up my phone, showing him the trending headlines. "Your choice now is simple. Accept it gracefully and save what's left of your reputation, or fight me and lose everything." He stormed out just as Robert entered. They passed each other without a word. "Quite a morning you're having," Robert observed. "Just getting started," I replied. "Coffee?" As we discussed business, I heard my daughters coming downstairs. They'd been listening the whole time, of course. "Is Dad gone?" Nora asked. "For now." I pulled out chairs for them. "Want to sit in on a real business meeting?" Their faces lit up as they joined us at the table. Robert smiled, pulling out contracts. "Your mother," he told them, "just pulled off one of the most brilliant business moves I've seen in 30 years. My phone buzzed with another text from Lucian. "Dubai's just the beginning. You ready for this?" I looked at my daughters, seeing strength and pride replace the fear and uncertainty that had shadowed them for so long. More than ready, I typed back. Skylar leaned over to look at the contracts. Mom, can I intern at one of your hotels this summer? Better yet, I smiled. How about we tour them all? Europe, Asia, anywhere you want. Without asking Dad's permission? Nora's eyes widened. Without asking anyone's permission, I corrected. That's the whole point. Robert raised his coffee cup. To new beginnings? To new beginnings, we echoed, just as another business news alert flashed across my phone. Hotel Queen's empire continues to expand. Queen. I liked the sound of that much better than trophy wife. 1 week after the news broke, I stood at the podium in the grand ballroom of my flagship hotel. The same room where, just days ago, Franklin had humiliated me at my birthday party. Now it was packed with press, business leaders, and my entire board of directors. Ladies and gentlemen, I began, thank you for coming today. In the front row, Skylar and Nora beamed. Beside them sat Adeline, dabbing proud tears from her eyes. Lucian stood at the back, giving me a subtle thumbs up. Many of you knew me as Franklin's wife, I continued, the woman who planned parties and picked up dry cleaning. Today, I'm announcing our company's expansion into the Middle East, with 3 new luxury properties breaking ground in Dubai next month. The doors at the back of the ballroom crashed open. Franklin strode in, his lawyer trailing behind him. This is a farce, he shouted. She's a fraud. Security moved to intercept him, but I held up my hand. Let him speak. I think we'd all love to hear what my soon-to-be ex-husband has to say. Franklin reached the front of the room, his face red. You think you can just take everything I built? Everything you built? Robert stood up from his seat. Franklin, your wife's company just acquired your entire hotel division. The board voted this morning. The room erupted in murmurs. Franklin's lawyer tugged at his sleeve, whispering urgently. That's impossible, Franklin sputtered. I would have known. Like you knew about the Singapore deal? I smiled. Please, take a seat. Unless you'd like to explain to everyone how you missed your wife building a billion-dollar empire right under your nose. Cameras flashed as Franklin's face crumpled. He allowed his lawyer to lead him to a chair. Now, as I was saying, I continued, our expansion plans include not just Dubai, but also new properties in London, Tokyo, and yes, Singapore. The presentation continued smoothly. I outlined our vision, our growth strategy, our commitment to sustainable luxury. With each slide, each announcement, I watched Franklin sink lower in his chair. And finally, I said, I'm proud to announce our new educational initiative. The Mitchell Foundation will provide full scholarships to young women pursuing business degrees. Skylar jumped to her feet, leading the applause. Nora followed, tears streaming down her face. After the presentation, as journalists clamored for interviews, Franklin approached me one last time. You've destroyed me, he said quietly. No, Franklin, you destroyed yourself. I just built something better from the ruins. His lawyer appeared with more papers. Mrs. Mitchell, about the divorce settlement. Already taken care of, Lucian interrupted, materializing beside me. Your client's shares have been transferred as agreed. He keeps his reputation. We keep quiet about the mistress and the failed investments. Franklin's shoulders sagged. The house? You have until the end of the month to move out, I replied. I hear Amanda has a lovely condo downtown. He turned to our daughters. Girls. Save it, Dad, Skylar cut him off. Mom's taking us to Dubai next week to see the new properties. We're kind of busy. As Franklin walked away for the last time, Adeline hugged me tight. You did it. You actually did it. Mrs. Mitchell? A young reporter approached. Can you tell us what inspired you to build this empire in secret? I looked at my daughters, then back at the reporter. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying someone else. It's about building yourself up so high they can't reach you anymore. Mom, Nora called out. Robert wants to show us the plans for the Tokyo hotel. Excuse me, I smiled at the reporter. Duty calls. Later that evening, as we celebrated in the penthouse suite, Skylar showed me social media reactions to the press conference. You're trending again, she laughed. Everyone's calling you the queen of hotels now. Better than trophy wife, Nora chimed in. My phone buzzed with a text from Lucian. Dubai team wants to move up the groundbreaking. Ready to fly out tomorrow? "What do you say, girls?" I asked. "Ready for an adventure?" Their enthusiastic response was all I needed to hear. As we stood on the balcony, looking out over the city, I thought about the long journey here. Every dismissive comment, every belittling gesture from Franklin had become a brick in the foundation of something magnificent. "Mom?" Skylar wrapped her arm around my waist. "Thank you for showing us what strength looks like." "Thank you for showing me what I was capable of," I replied. My phone buzzed one last time. A message from Robert. "Franklin just resigned from his own company. Board's asking if you want to buy that too." I smiled, looking at my daughters, thinking of all the women who would benefit from the foundation, all the opportunities ahead. "No thanks," I typed back. "We're building something new instead." The Dubai sun blazed overhead as I cut the ribbon at our newest hotel's grand opening. Cameras flashed, capturing the moment the Mitchell Group's flagship Middle Eastern property officially opened its doors. "Mom, look!" Skylar pointed to a massive digital billboard displaying our hotel's logo. "We're literally lighting up the skyline." Nora squeezed my hand. "Dad's interview came out today. Want to see it?" I nodded, and she pulled up the article on her phone. Franklin's face looked aged, tired. The headline read, "Former hotel magnate reflects on lost empire." "He actually admitted everything," Nora said softly. "About how he treated you, about underestimating you." "Good." I handed the phone back. "That's not our story anymore, though, is it?" The opening ceremony continued with speeches and tours. I watched Skylar confidently leading a group of investors through the property. At 18, she'd already proven herself a natural in the business. "Mrs. Mitchell?" A young woman approached me, clutching a folder. "I'm Maria, one of your foundation's first scholarship recipients. I just wanted to thank you personally." "The foundation is just getting started," I smiled. "How are your business classes going?" "Amazing. Actually, I was hoping to apply for the internship program." "Send your application directly to me," I interrupted. "We need more women like you in this industry." Adeline appeared at my elbow. "Hate to interrupt, but there's someone here you need to see." In the hotel's stunning lobby, Amanda, Franklin's former mistress, stood nervously waiting. "I know I'm probably the last person you want to see," she began. "Actually, I should thank you," I replied. "If you hadn't distracted Franklin with your affair, I might never have built all this." She flushed. "He left me, you know, after everything came out. I'm not here about him, though. I'm here about your foundation. I want to donate my divorce settlement to fund scholarships for women leaving abusive relationships." I studied her face, seeing genuine remorse. "Come to my office. Let's talk." Later during the gala dinner, Lucian raised his glass. "To the woman who turned a trophy wife joke into an empire." "To Mom," Skylar added, "who showed us that the best revenge is massive success." My phone buzzed. A message from Robert. "Franklin's at the country club, drinking alone at the bar. Keeps showing people that article, saying he regrets everything. Your revenge is complete." But looking around at my daughters, my friends, and the empire we'd built, I realized this had stopped being about revenge a long time ago. "I have an announcement," I said, standing. "The Mitchell Foundation is launching a new initiative, funding business education for single mothers. And," Skylar jumped in, "I've decided to defer college for a year to help run it." "What?" I turned to her, surprised. "You built all this while raising us," she said. "I want to help other mothers do the same." Nora raised her hand. "I've been designing a website for it already. Can I show everyone?" As my daughters presented their ideas, I saw Adeline wiping away tears. "You did it, Reese," she whispered. "You changed everything." The night wound down with deals being struck, friendships being formed, and possibilities expanding. Maria and Amanda were deep in conversation about domestic violence survivor programs. Skylar was networking with investors like she'd been doing it her whole life. "Mrs. Mitchell?" A hotel employee approached. "There's a call from the Tokyo office about the new property." "Actually," I smiled, "direct that to Skylar. She's handling the Asia-Pacific expansion now." My daughter's face lit up as she took the call, striding confidently across the lobby. "Ready to head up?" Nora asked, yawning. "Big day tomorrow with the foundation launch." In the penthouse suite, I stepped out onto the balcony, taking in the glittering Dubai skyline. My phone buzzed one final time, An email from Franklin. I know it's too late, he wrote, but I see you now. Really see you. I'm sorry it took losing everything to understand what I had. Take care of our girls. I thought about responding, but instead I deleted the email. That chapter was closed. Mom? Skylar joined me on the balcony. Tokyo's on board with my ideas for the new property. Of course they are, I hugged her. You're not just my daughter, you're my successor. Think we'll ever stop making headlines? Nora asked, joining us. Probably not, I laughed. But that's okay. We've got plenty more stories to tell. Looking at my daughters, I realized that the real victory wasn't in proving Franklin wrong. It was in proving ourselves right. We weren't just surviving anymore. We were thriving, building, growing. And that was better than any revenge could ever be. Come on, I said, leading them inside. We've got a foundation to launch tomorrow. Time to help other women write their own success stories.